Thank you for joining us for this special series of This is Getting Old, sponsored by the 2020 George Washington University's University Seminar Series. Towards Age Friendly is brought to you by Melissa B., PhD, in collaboration with GW Center for Aging, Health, and Humanities. Welcome to This is Getting Old. I'm your host, Melissa Batchelor, and today we're going to be talking about See Me at the Smithsonian. And this episode is part of our University Seminar Series and part of the age-friendly ecosystem work that we're doing, particularly in the area of arts and creativity. And today I'm joined by Lynne Marquis and Amy Castine. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
So before we get started, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself, and then we'll dive in to the See Me at the Smithsonian program. We'll start with you, Robin.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Lynne Marquis, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for Access Smithsonian and the See Me at the Smithsonian program.
And I'm Amy Castine. I'm the Lead Educator and liaison between the different units in the See Me program.
Okay. Well, it's great to have both of you here today. So to get started, maybe let's first talk about the Access Smithsonian program and how it came to be and kind of what the mission and vision is for that program.
Yeah, so Access Smithsonian is the central office for all of the 19 museums, National Zoo, and research centers for the Smithsonian units. We were founded in 1991, and our mission really focuses on being a catalyst for consistent and integrated, inclusive design that provides meaningful access to Smithsonian Institution Museums, and specifically for content with visitors with disabilities. We do many things, both internally and externally. On the internal museum-facing side, we advise museums on policies, practices, and procedures for the staff and museums, including trainings, and advising the exhibition teams on inclusive design. So we focus on a lot of things internally in our museums, and then externally, we really are trying to provide the best experience we can for visitors with disabilities, and that can look like anything from coordinating access services, as if someone needs ASL interpretation or a highly visualized tour. We host internships for students with intellectual disabilities. And one of my roles is really about engaging with communities in the local area and nationwide who might not think that they can join the museum or visit us or have their needs met. So we're really trying to build those relationships and let folks know that they're welcome here and that we have many things for them to enjoy however they need to. And one of our biggest offerings, and the reason Amy and I are here today, is our programs that we have for visitors. So we have lots of different types of programs. One of them is called Morning at the Museum, and it's a sensory-friendly program for families with children on the autism spectrum and adults on the autism spectrum. And then Amy and I work with the See Me at the Smithsonian program, and that's for adults with dementia and their care partners.
Okay. So all of that is great and amazing. And I love the fact that it does have a lifespan approach. So this is not, just about older adults. The Access Smithsonian program is for a wide range of creating inclusive environments for folks. So now let's move into the See Me at the Smithsonian program. So tell us a little bit about the program and then how you've probably had to adapt it due to COVID.
So See Me at the Smithsonian was an idea that began in 2016. We have an advisory committee that was formed at that time, folks who are experts in the field or have some sort of contact with people living with dementia. And so they formulated best practices and the ideas of how we wanted to go forward. Staff training began in 2017 in September. That's when I came on with the museum. And the goal was to establish the kinds of accommodations and responsibilities that we had as a museum and as people working with this population to make sure that we are offering the best possible programming. And as that training ended, we had our pilot program with the National Portrait Gallery, and that was in October of 2017. And from then on, it's been just onward and upward. We've been able to expand to include the Smithsonian American Art Museum, the National Museum of African Art, the National Museum of Asian Art, or Freer Sackler, and to begin to provide programming in a range of different subject matter areas so that folks can choose what is most interesting to them. And due to the generous support of the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation and the Smithsonian's New York Regional Council, we've been able to continue to expand even as we've moved into the virtual space through COVID. And that's been really a meaningful and joyful experience to be able to offer more and better, broader range of topics for folks to enjoy.
Yeah, so one of the first things we were able to do with that, with our expansion from those wonderful supports, were adding the American History Museum, the National Museum of American History, the Cooper Hewitt Design Museum in New York, and our newest museum to come on board is the National Museum of African American History and Culture. So we now total with our virtual museums at 6 museums that we offer programming from. And in the last 2 years, the other focus, even before COVID happened, was really, we recognized the need to expand our relationships to working within the community and with senior residencies, senior centers, villages, any kind of social space where older adults were coming together and really wanting to let those folks know that we had a program for them, and not just expecting people to, wander into the museum and know that they could come to our program. So since COVID, we've been offering programs to folks within their actual residencies or through their own networks, because we know that some of the most isolated people right now are in these places. So that's been a big push for us to expand that program that direction. And we also, in March of this year, just this last month, we started the program in Spanish. So we launched Si Mi en Español, and that's been a big dream of ours for many years now. And our team, Carmen Pastor, is our lead educator on that. And we are now providing our program in Spanish.
Okay, that's great. So maybe just give us an idea, give me some examples of what the experience would be like.
Well, when we were in the gallery, the experience was much like what anyone would experience when they came into a museum and experienced a program that was offered by that unit. So we would meet at a central location, we would all gather together and then move toward our first piece that we're looking at. And the biggest difference for folks in this group is that we're slowing down and looking at less objects. A typical docent tour would be 8 to 10 objects in an hour. But for our folks, we recognize that processing times are different and ability to move from one place to another is a little different. So we want to make sure that the program meets their needs exactly as they are. So we would slow down. We would look at 2 or maybe 3 objects in the gallery and spend our time doing what is referred to in the museum world as close looking. And what that looks like is that instead of just glancing at an object like many folks do when they visit a museum, that we would sit and just take a deep breath and relax for a moment and spend a minute just looking without speaking, without any kind of interpretation, and then move to what do you see in the object? What does this mood of this piece, what does it bring up for you? And those are the kinds of questions and the kind of meaning making that we participate when we look at the objects. That's not that different in the virtual. The biggest difference is that no one has to get on the subway or get in their car or park their car or walk to the museum. So in a lot of ways, it's been very good for our folks because they come to us feeling a little bit more rested and in the comfort of their own homes. So we found that engagement has been really, really good. Our numbers are up, not down with the virtual, which has been really great. And we're enjoying the switch, which a lot of people maybe have not. To put it in terms that folks who are maybe homeschooling their kids will understand, we are scheduled and synchronous, which means that we have a set day and time when we have our program, but we're live and in person. We provide closed captioning, which is live captioned as we say it. It's typed and put on the screen, so folks who need that have access to it. And we're enjoying just looking at a work and saying, what does this mean to me? for a group of folks who maybe have been shut out of the educational experience. We're providing that and making sure that they know that we respect them as people and that we respect their life experience and the joyful meaning that they bring to the piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably one of the things that we don't typically think about is the energy it takes to go somewhere. And if you are, a little bit older, a little bit more frail, even, physically and, cognitively, if you're living, with Alzheimer's disease, going virtual does eliminate a lot of that. So if someone wanted to get more information or to sign up for one of your synchronous live events, where could they get more information?
The biggest thing folks need to do is just simply send an email to access@si.edu. That email goes to our central accessibility website or email address, and from there it gets sent off to for Spanish language programming. The email will go to Carmen Pastor. If it's for English language programming, it will come to me. If it's for community programs, it will go to Robin, and each of us will respond as needed. I try to have a quick conversation on the phone with folks just so we can get on the same page and know if there's any extra supports that would make the program more enjoyable for people, and just make sure they're well cared for.
So for right now, you have 5 participating museums. And so maybe tell us how and when these programs connect, or when the programs are offered. That's the better term.
Yeah, so we have 5 museums that are doing programming virtually right now: the National Portrait Gallery, the Smithsonian American Art Museum, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, the National Museum of Asian Art, and the National Museum of American History. And those museums rotate. We offer programming to the public on the first and third Wednesday of the month from 2 to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. We also, as Amy mentioned, have our community programming that can be scheduled whenever works best for the facility. So those ones change when and how they happen. And all of our programs are free, both for people who are joining our public programs and for community partners who want to work with us. That's incredibly important to us. So yeah, if you want to learn about the programming, you just reach out. We try to keep the engagement really easy, and we don't have a long registration process. We just want folks to reach out, get to know us. We're trying to have a conversation among friends, which it really feels like that at the end of the day.
Okay. So again, the email address is access@si.edu. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And we'll have hyperlinks to all of the museums that you've mentioned that are participating in the program on my website in the blog. And so I appreciate you both being with us today to share this amazing program.
Thank you so much.
Now, one thing I forgot to mention earlier is that we are partners with an organization called Arts for the Aging. They're a local Washington, D.C. Organization. And one of the things that they add to the programming, which people may not realize, is that we are participating with teaching artists, and they may be visual artists, they may be musicians, they may be poets or storytellers. And so in the process of looking at artwork, we are considering other things as well. So if we're looking at a screen at Asian art of the Tales of Genji, we may have a storyteller with us who will tell us a little story that's not just about the object itself, but she will take the ideas that we generate as we have our conversation and weave those into a tale of our own. Or we may be looking at an object called the Big Egg at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and then work with a teaching artist and materials that you just happen to have on hand, whether that's wrapping paper, tissue paper, or pens of different colors, highlighters, you name it, we've worked with it to create our own Big Egg and create a viewfinder so that we can put down bits of color and then use our viewfinder to move it around on the surface of our work and find the very best colors of what we've put down. So there's an intellectual stimulation that comes with this, but there's also creative stimulation and the working together of the folks who are living in the home So it may be a mother and daughter, it may be a husband and wife, and those folks get to just stop being caregiver and cared for a time and just be friends working together or loved ones working together on a project and learning and engaging. So that to me is a really important part, and we could not do that elements of what we do without Arts for the Aging.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, well, thank you very much, ladies, and I will have to definitely see you at the Smithsonian. Thank you for joining us for this special series of This is Getting Old, sponsored by the 2020 George Washington University's University Seminar Series. Towards Age Friendly is brought to you by Melissa B., PhD, in collaboration with GW Center for Aging, Health, and Humanities.
Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of This is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. You can find more episodes like this on my YouTube channel, Melissa B. PhD, and don't forget to subscribe. You can also visit my website, melissabphd.com, and check out the podcast and blog section, because that's where I put all the hyperlinks and different things that we may talk about in any given episode. You can follow me on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can also find the audio version of the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Amazon Music. So I hope this podcast gives you ideas of different things that we can do to move towards an age-friendly world, because when the world is age-friendly, it's friendly for everyone.